On this very podcast, Say Yes to Podcasting, I talk a lot about finding your groove and rhythm when it comes to publishing episodes regularly, doing our best not to skip a week, enjoying the process, and so on. However, as an intro to this very episode you're listening to right now, I have to say time got the best of me and I wasn't the most prepared. And to be completely honest, I wasn't sure if I was going to provide you with the best value possible this week. Then it dawned on me, and I thought of something I suggest to my clients all the time. Repurpose episodes or episode snippets from when you were a podcast guest. Which is very obvious, but yes, sometimes we're our own worst coaches. So something I say to my clients all the time, I find it hard to implement sometimes. And those guesting opportunities can be used in so many different ways. And those individual 5 to 10 minute responses you gave on a particular question the host asked you on their show can hold more value than putting together something the day before an episode of your show has to go live. This is just a reminder for both you and me that we need to be guests on other people's podcasts more frequently, because not only do we get to meet more amazing folks, but also because we get multiple high quality content pieces we can seamlessly then recycle and reuse afterwards. So here's one of those snippets from when I was a guest. The show I was honored to be a part of is called the How to Podcast series, and it is hosted by Dave Campbell, a proud Canadian and a true supporter of every podcaster he comes into contact with. That is what I like the most about him. He genuinely cares about the success of each and every podcaster and is generous with sharing his knowledge and his precious time with other people. It is really hard to put into words how amazing my experience with Dave was, so I will leave you with a part of the chat we had on his show, and I will link to his podcast in the show notes. Last but not least, to set some expectations, the topic of this mini excerpt episode, let's call it that way, is podcasting as a business tool, but not in your standard do this, not that way of thinking. Instead, Dave and I talk about how future podcasters should go about picking their ideal listener while leaving room for pleasant surprises, what podcasting actually is and what it can look like for you, how to be those annoying imposters, and how to stay consistent. Most importantly, we speak from our own personal experiences, and we each provide tangible examples to solidify our points and to show you that you too can launch a successful podcast that is related to your business and that your listeners will find their way to you if you satisfy a few key requirements we talk about. Anyway, you're going to enjoy this discussion because chatting with fellow podcasters who are passionate about helping other podcasters is now officially my favorite hobby. And now that I think about it, how lucky am I that this is also part of my business? I'll let you go now. Please enjoy the episode. This is Say Yes to Podcasting, where solopreneurs learn how to start podcasts that attract their ideal clients and do the marketing for them. I'm your host, Anja Lordanic. Say Yes to Podcasting today.
When the people that you help, the people you work with, are they all focused on the business side of podcasting and using podcasts for their business? Or do you help people who are also doing it just out of sheer passion and they're not really looking to make money? They just want to get on the microphone and help people. Are you kind of helping both, or do you focus more on the business side?
I focus on the business side, and this is what my the main focus of the podcast, Say Yes to Podcasting, is using a podcast as a business tool. And I normally say, whenever I speak to people, if you want to launch a podcast as a passion project, there is nothing wrong with that. But in that case, you don't need to follow certain quote unquote rules, even though we know that podcasting is what you make it out to be. But if you want to launch it as a passion project, you don't need to necessarily expect to get clients from it. And there is something special about podcasting for podcasting's sake, which is what me and my colleague did with our language podcast a few years back. And it is a different experience. It is, I wouldn't say necessarily more enjoyable, but you assume a different mindset compared to when you're podcasting for business. So whenever I'm coming up with content for my podcast, I'm thinking about how I can serve my listeners best so they can learn something, they can apply something, or they can potentially hire me to help them do that thing. And it's I assume different personas whenever I'm podcasting for passion, as a passion project, and whenever I'm podcasting as a business tool.
And you've got I'm looking at your website while we're talking. Again, the lemon in the top left corner. Everyone go check out the lemon. It's got an attitude. I love there, it's everywhere. I see everywhere I scroll. There's more lemons.
Yeah, and the website was created by a Canadian, so I need to shout her out. Woo-hoo. Emily Court. Woo!
Hey, all right. Way to go, Emily. Yeah, great. Good job. No, it's great. So if somebody wanted to come work with you, we're kind of in the pitch mode right now. If somebody wanted to come work with you, what are some of the things that you're going to ask them when you first meet them? Some of the questions that you normally ask new clients?
That's the beauty of podcasting, because whenever someone approaches me, they already listen to at least a couple of my episodes.
Right?
Yeah, or consumed some of my LinkedIn content. So they come semi-prepared, at least with the vocabulary and with some of the thoughts that have been bothering them. So recently I had a lady approach me, and she was so concerned about the technical aspect of podcasting. And I answered those questions politely, and then I stopped her and asked her what her podcast is about, what she's trying to accomplish, and so forth. And then we realized that the bottleneck is not tech, but it is actually she was trying to target two audiences, which is if you're launching a business podcast and you want to get clients, you don't want to mix audiences. So people come with their specific questions that they think are urgent and burning, while in reality, we're diagnosing something else. But people mostly don't come to me cold turkey like, I want to launch a podcast. They come with their own preconceived notions, or they come after listening to a couple of episodes. Is that your experience as well?
Yeah, I like that mixed audience thing. That makes a lot of sense, because you can't serve two audiences really well at the same time. It's really hard to do, because the audience, again, will get mixed up listening. They're like, this doesn't relate to me at all, this topic. Yeah. Right? Why am I listening to this show? Right. You can be really focused on who you're talking to.
Yeah. This is why I love the title of your podcast, How to Podcast Series. Is as clear as day. Do you want to start a podcast or not?
It's funny, because when I meet people, and this is one of the things I always encourage podcasters to do, when you meet someone, ask them how they found your show. That's good information. How do they listen to your show? What apps do they use? That kind of stuff, because that's going to help you to decide what's working. So, for example, if I ask 10 podcasters how they found the show and nobody says Facebook, and I spend 40 hours a week on Facebook, I might be able to spend that time somewhere else if nobody tells me that they found me on Facebook. If everybody tells me that they found me on LinkedIn and I don't do hardly anything on LinkedIn, imagine if I really tried on LinkedIn then. If people are already there finding me, it's working. So go with what works and don't try to reinvent the wheel. If it's working, then just use it. Like, lean into that and make that your main thing. When we first start a podcast, we don't really know who our audience is, really. We imagine who they might be. But once you start talking to your listeners and you actually get feedback, then you can actually narrow down and go, I know that my audience is here, and this is my ideal person that I like to work with. And it helps you to create better content as well. So imagine who they're going to be and then narrow it down over time, and you'll meet the right audience. I think that's kind of my approach.
Yeah, that's a great point, because I always say to people, let's define your ideal listener persona. And that's a very kind of surgical thing, because you know in advance whom you will be targeting, and you will focus every episode you create on them. But I like what you said, because you should also leave that door a bit open for surprises, because you never know who's on the other end, and you don't know what kind of client or listener might be on the other side, thoroughly enjoying every episode you create. So I really like that aspect you share, like being open, having an idea, having a plan, but also leaving some room for surprises.
So an example for you, I have Dad Space. It's a podcast for dads by dads. I'm a grandfather. I'm a father of 3, grandfather of 2. And for me, I created the show for fathers. It's not for men, all men. It's for dads, fathers who have kids, adopted children, your own children, right? That's who it's for. It's for fathers. And I've limited my audience from men down to fathers. I'm not talking to mothers. There's a lot of amazing mother podcasts and mom podcasts. They are super. They do really well. So I don't want to go that way. I want to go to dads. So what's interesting though, even though I'm talking specifically to dads, 68% of my audience are female.
Yeah.
For a dad podcast. And when I see that in my stats and my comments coming back from the women who listen to my show, I'm like, I'm still going to create content for dads. That's still my focus. But I really love that people who are outside of my ideal audience that I'm imagining I'm reaching out to find value in the content, that they come back. And the moms that are coming, some of them are coming because they're raising kids on their own. They don't have a dad in the home, and they want a balance to their parenting from a different point of view and a different perspective. And they come for that reason. There's a lot of different reasons people come to the show, but I just love that even when we really focus our attention down and we feel like we're ignoring or excluding somebody, they still feel welcome, right? That's still a big thing. I want to encourage people. Make sure that your audience is welcome to your show. And whenever you have a chance to talk to them. Ask them what they need, right? And it's going to make your show better.
Yeah. I really like this surprise, because women are in the majority of your listenership, even though your podcast is geared toward dads.
I know.
So bizarre, but also makes sense. When you explain it that way, this is like a mini masterclass in niching down. Like,
right.
But still,
right.
You can still be surprised.
Right. And again, that is not my target audience.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And then I guess another comment that I had recently too, which was really interesting. Somebody reached out and said, Dave, I listened to your How to Podcast series, but I'm never going to have a podcast. And They said, I listen to your show not for the content. I don't listen to your show for the content. And I'm like, I try really hard on my show to do good content. I bring great guests like you on the show. Like, we have great conversations, right? But this person said, I don't listen to your show for that. I have no interest in starting a podcast, ever. I like you. That's what they said. I like you as the host. And I like that you show up on my phone now every day. I like that you show up. And I listen to you because I like you. You could talk about anything, and I'd listen to your show. I just happened to find your How to Podcast series. So thanks for being there for me. You're a great companion in my day.
That's so beautiful.
Like, isn't that great? Like, I really put a lot of effort into my show and try to give the best content possible. But this person has zero interest in anything I have to say. They're not here for the topic.
And you now have to ask them how they found your show. Because if they're not interested in podcasting, what made them click, press play, right?
Yeah, I know, right? It's just the weirdest thing. So you can have a plan, but you can also have what happens outside of the plan. And be open to that as well. Because you just never know what's going to happen. Yeah, I think that's so cool that we as podcasters have a connection with people and can be in their lives, and they welcome us into their lives. And we're there as a source of information and support, but we're just also just a friendly voice that they become used to, and they build you into their routine. It's the best thing ever.
Exactly. And that's, I think, the beauty of podcasting, because you never know who's on the other side, and they are, with every episode, getting to know you as a person and as an expert, depending on the type of podcast you have, which is all the more reason to try to be as authentic as you can, which is why as I said at the start, I try to be as honest and as transparent as I can be in my episodes. And I have a sense that you do that as well, because there is no point in performing. And this is yet another ode to audio medium, because I feel whenever I'm on video, I have that idea inside my head that I'm on video, which may hinder my quote unquote performance. And whenever I'm recording episodes by myself, solo episodes, I feel like I'm a more unfiltered and more authentic version of myself. I don't know if you feel the same.
Right. Yeah, because you don't feel like you're performing or putting on, you're just not so focused on all the visual side of what you're doing. You can just focus in on what you're saying and connecting with your audience, right?
Yeah. It's like having a one-to-one conversation, like in person. You're not focused on video because there's no cameras.
It's good. It's really good. Beyond video and podcasting, what's one other thing in podcasting that you're kind of hearing from podcasters and you're helping people with? Something that people are still wrestling with around content or their show? What else do you find that is kind of a common thing you hear from podcasters?
The imposter syndrome, like stuff people keep sharing, but I know we're all familiar with like those inner thoughts and inner battles we have. So I won't go too deep into that because we can go on for hours just on imposter syndrome alone. So I will mention another thing that I see podcasters struggling with, and it is the fact that you need to have a certain kind of podcast to succeed. So, for example, I need to have an in-person interview-only YouTube podcast to be successful, because they see Stephen Bartlett and they think that is the definition of podcasting, which is absolutely not true. Or God forbid, Joe Rogan. Who would listen to a 3-hour podcast episode? Who does that? Like in one go? Let's be real. If it all depends on your goals. Podcasting is what you decide podcasting is. And if you want, I'm always focused on the business side. If you want to create a podcast as your business asset, that means that you want to stay consistent. You want to serve your audience, which in turn means that you need to find ways to do that sustainably, and you don't want to burn out in the process, because podcasting is something that we need to enjoy to make it work. We need to enjoy having these conversations and to create episodes every single week and keep serving our audience, because that's essentially free content. And it takes so much like willpower and ambition and drive and knowledge that it will all pay off in the end. And it is not easy. So if you stopped wrestling with the idea of having a podcast, like, okay, I no longer feel imposter syndrome, I'm now ready to launch it, then you're faced with a different kind of internal mental battle, because that's what I'm facing right now. And this is what I shared before. Unless I get like positive feedback from real humans on the other side, it is difficult for me sometimes to sit down and record an episode for that week. But I also know that that episode is a non-negotiable for me, and that I will put it out. I will do my best with what I have at that moment. Now I forgot your original question because I went down this tangent.
Oh, I'm just following along. I love this. What about one thing to keep in mind when you're setting up a podcast for your business? Any specific thing? Because setting it up for a hobby or a passion project could be a little different than a business-related podcast. Is there anything specifically that you make or suggest to your podcasters that they should do when first starting their show, when they're focused on business?
Something that is universally true for business owners, and especially coaches and mentors and people who are teaching others how to do certain things in business, it is treat your podcast as if you're talking to your coaching clients. And you're killing like 5 birds with one stone with that thought alone, right? Because you have your ideal listener, you know what they're struggling with, you know what they need help with, you know how to explain those concepts because you're already doing that every single week. So you know you already have those ideas organized inside your head. You're already doing that. Just put a mic in front of you and record those episodes that way. And I would also argue that this is what I say to clients all the time. You already have content recorded. You're just not calling them podcast episodes, right?
Interesting. I like that. That's good. Yeah, see, I knew I was going to learn something today. I love this. So for a new listener coming to your show, first timer, is there a starting point? Where would you send somebody new? Most recent episode, go back in the beginning and listen to all of them like I'm doing? Where should we go as a listener? What do you suggest?
Yeah, I would like for them to listen to everything, but that's an annoying thing to say, like check out Say Yes to Podcasting and tune in. That's not what I want to share. I want you to start with episode 1. It is 3 things you should do before you launch your podcast, because that relieves the pressure off of new podcasters. It's not something you need to do straight away. You don't need to launch your podcast today. You can see what are some of the things that will help you dip the toe in, test the waters, and see if this is for you. Because as I said, I like to be realistic and I want people to enjoy the process, because when you're enjoying something, you have no competition. But if you're not enjoying it, you will force yourself every week through the process. And this is not something I want, even if you're paying me, and even if you're a paying client.
I like it. You talked about imposter syndrome. I know we're not going to do a whole episode on that, but one of the things that I help podcasters with when somebody brings that up is I get that we stop talking about it for a second. I'm like, okay, grab a piece of paper and a pen or grab your phone. Write out a few things that you know how to do that you used to not know how to do. Whatever that is. Drive a car, be a parent, whatever. Just give me a whole list of things that you know how to do. Cook, you know how to paint a room, you know how to fix something. What have you taught yourself? What have you learned? What's new for you? But now it's almost like you can do it without even thinking. And so then we make a list. So for me, I drive a car and my car has a manual transmission. So I change gears with my gear shift, right? I can get in my car and drive and it's not even a thought. Somebody sits beside me and they look at me, they're like, oh my gosh, I could never do that. For me, I don't even think about it. I get home and I didn't even, any time did I look down and go, oh, I'm nervous, I forgot how to do this. I've done it for my whole life. I just know how to do it. So that goes on my list of all the things that I've accomplished, things that I've learned how to do. And anytime you have a thought that you're not good enough, you shouldn't be here. You're not smart enough. You're not talented enough. There's people who are better than you. Nobody wants to hear from you. You're not going to be good at this. Those are imposter syndrome thoughts coming in. They're thoughts. They're not facts. They're thoughts. A fact is I can drive a car that's a manual transmission. That's a fact. I'm a dad of 3. That's a fact. And I just go through my list of facts, and every time I have a thought, I just pair it up against the facts and go, well, this thought doesn't mean anything because I have this proof that I can do things and I've learned things and I've taken on big things in my life. And now they become just easy over time.
Muscle memory.
So anytime I feel like I'm not good enough in the moment to be a podcaster, who cares what I have to say, right? This person's way better at it than I am. That's my kind of my measuring stick. The other thing too is I'm a guitar player. I've been playing music for a long time. When I go and see a really good guitar player, I have 2 options. I can either go, well, they're way better than I am, so I'm going to sell my guitar and quit because they're so good. Or I can come home and say, if they could do that, they have the same number of fingers and the same guitar that I have. If they can do it, then if I put the effort in, I can get better. And there's hope for me to learn. So it's either going to encourage me to quit or it's going to encourage me to try harder and learn, right? So that's kind of my approach from a music perspective. And as podcasters, you might hear your favorite podcaster, you might meet somebody that you look up to, and you have a choice. You can say, well, they're so much better than I am. There's no room for me here. I'm going to quit, walk away from podcasting. Or if they can do it, I can do it. Because they started at 0, just like me. I'm going to have to learn. I'm going to have to catch up and gain information and practice. But there's hope for me. So what's kind of your reaction to that kind of counter imposter syndrome way of addressing
My reaction is, may I steal this from you and use it with my client?
Oh, please, you can have it. It's yours.
I will give you credit. Don't worry. I really love how you put it, because it reminds me of an episode I did for my podcast, which is where I talked about consistency, and we have a similar way of thinking, because I mentioned brushing your teeth, putting on your clothes, and those things are non-negotiables, and they are something you do every day. They're muscle memory. sometimes I don't even remember that I brush my teeth because it is such a normal part of my day, like a couple of times a day. And this is something we could also implement when it comes to podcasting, because a lot of people struggle with consistency before they even start, which is a valid concern. And I always validate it and say to them, okay, if you want to make this a part of your routine, you need to make room for it and not necessarily cram it into your schedule. So make it part of your routine as practically as possible. I'm now speaking in general terms. Every podcaster is different and with different responsibilities. Not everyone is a parent, but I would say that a lot of business owners, most business owners are busy, and you can introduce podcasting into your life, but you need to eliminate some things. And the more you do it, the harder it will become to give up. It will be harder to give up and miss an upload than it will be to keep on uploading, to keep that streak going, which is something I said to one of my clients this week precisely. She shared with me, like, another episode is out. I'm so proud of myself because she's now doing these on her own. And I always encourage her, and I even asked her how she's able to do it. And she just wants to keep the streak going. And she knows that it feels comforting to have me by her side for any questions and doubts and concerns. But at some point, it stops being about you and your schedule, and it starts being more about the people you're serving, because you kind of have this responsibility toward your listeners who will and may become your clients down the line.
That's why I'm so glad we're talking.
And I'm back for a quick outro. I told you that Dave is a true gem. And again, you can have a podcast that is an important part of your business. And I hope that this episode showed you that with a few mindset tweaks and a few practical tweaks, it is simpler than it seems right now. As we mentioned, it is not easy, but it is doable. You got this. I will see you next week.